like we were in the ocean there.
Yeah.
Right.
Happy Thursday. Is it Thursday? Yes, it is Thursday. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Cut the Shit, Cue the Genius show, where we are just cutting the shit as we do, and we're cueing all the geniuses. We have a very special genius with us, and you, our audience, are also our geniuses. Hot topic of the year, even though it's not even the end of Q1 of 2023, it feels like Q5 of 2022, whatever it is for you. But it is like, how do you get your team and actually you as a professional to continue to do epic shit? So we've been like trying to see, how do you bottle energy? How do you spark new ideas? Who's the idea igniter in your team? Who's your leader that like just pushes you to do the very best? Hey, Sean. And we have the perfect guest who's going to tell us how she does it and maybe bottle some of her energy within bottles. And I think that will be our gift to the industry. Monique Ruff Bell, thank you for being with us today.
No, thank you.
And happy Thursday. And I know that you're beaming in from Atlanta.
I am. I have some wonderful teammates with me, and we're preparing for an upcoming conference, and we're having such great meetings, and that Southern hospitality is really happening over here. So we've been having a really great time.
Awesome. So Liz and Michelle and myself, Dahlia, we are super happy to have you here. And I couldn't think of a better leader that can tell us, how do you keep getting your team to do epic shit when when they actually feel like shit? That's basically it, right? So, I think with all our conversations with clients, peers, team members, etc., there's a bit of, people are feeling tired. People are feeling uninspired. They're thinking, I'm doing this because I need to keep a job, all of that. But in your case, well, and then blend in where you are at the moment and what inspires you. But how do you keep your team members energized?
It's a really good question, because I think what I've kind of started to iterate with my team members is, you think you have these lull times when you're in events. That does not exist. We will never not be tired. We will never not have 1,000 things to do and to multitask. We will never feel accomplished fully. Like, we always think we're missing something or we needed to do something else. And so there's this constant ebb and flow of energy, where you feel really good and strong and inspired, and then when you feel really tired and beat down and all of that good stuff. And I am the type of person that it's really important for my team to understand that I don't follow perfectionism. I follow risk taking, and I follow how we learn from things. And I know I have a very competent and strong team, and so they're going to deliver regardless. But it's not going to always be at 100% to us, because we know what's going on in the back end. But that attendee has no idea what just fell apart or what fire we just had to deal with or whatever. But we know, right? And we know that as long as we did what needed to be done for that attendee to still have a fantastic experience, even though it wasn't perfect on our end, that is enough. So I always preach 80-20 rule. Like, we're going to try some new stuff, and 80% is going to be fantastic and 20% is going to be shit. And we're going to learn from that and get through that. And let's be really clear that what that 20% is, and that we're okay if it doesn't always live up to that 100%. So I verbalize that and talk about that and share that, so that they can feel comfortable about risk taking and thinking outside of the box and trying things, and knowing that if we couldn't get it right this year, maybe we can get it right next year. And, cost assessment that comes with the risk and all of that good stuff. So I think because there is this comfortability with taking risk, knowing that if this doesn't come out the way that everyone thought it would be, I'm not going to get fired. There's not going to be this, you're not a child. You're not going to get slapped on the wrist or anything like that about it. It's about, okay, what can we take away from this experience so we can do better next time? And that helps keep them motivated into continuing to try new things.
Yeah.
It keeps them motivated into understanding there is ebbs and flows to this, and that's okay if my energy is not always at 1,000 today. And I'll get it back and it will be good because they are high performers and they don't know how to be anything else.
Right.
So I know that. And so I'm confident in how they deliver from that.
Well, and so let's back up for a second, because if you're giving all this energy and all this awesomeness as a team leader, and all this, you're allowing them to do epic shit and to take the risks, etc. Talk about you as a leader. How do you keep your tank full? How do you keep, I know for a fact my tank goes on empty. There's no fuel. Doesn't matter how much rum and coke I drink. That's not going to do it. Or white cheddar popcorn. That's not even going to do it. Where it's like, you are down and you're like pushing others, but like inside you're just broke. Like there's something broken. So like, how do you fill that tank?
It's as if I do a lot of self-care for myself, to be honest. I am a mother, I am a wife, I am a leader. I have a lot of things on my plate, and I'm no good to no one, whether it's at home or at work, if I am completely depleted. And so I'm really clear about boundaries. There are times where it's appropriate to do something a little bit late when it comes to work, and then there's things where it can wait till tomorrow. There are things where I answered 10 emails and 20 just came in after I answered those 10, and I'm going to leave some of that on the table until the next day and they'll hear from me, and it's okay for that. There's going to be times where I need to take a day, and I tell my boss, mental health day. I literally say that's what I'm taking, so that I can not do anything, not think about anything. If I just want to lay around that day, I'm not running errands. I'm not adding more work because I'm taking off from work. I'm literally just breathing and just kind of replenishing myself. And then also, I enjoy what I do. I'm passionate about being in the events field. My entire career since 1999 has been in events. I have had wonderful experiences. I've been able to do exceptional, great things here. And so that keeps me motivated as well. Like, I've been through enough to know that it'll be all right. Mm-hmm. And so even though you have those moments where you're just like, ugh, I got to unplug. I haven't had it where I had to unplug and I'm beating myself up about anything, or I'm unplugging and I'm thinking, how can I get through this? No, I've been through enough to know I can get through stuff. I just need the time, the runway, the space, the self-care to get my energy back up so that I can then do that. So it's really about just knowing thyself and really filling yourself up with that stuff, and really creating some really clear boundaries for yourself, knowing that I'm not a rocket science. I'm not solving cancer. I do events and I treat it as such. And it's a joy to do it. But some things can wait.
Yeah. I'd be interested to hear from the audience, how do you stop from beating yourself up if you're taking a day for self-care, or you're trying to replenish the tank, if you will, so that you can continue to do epic shit? Liz, I know that you're a mom, you're a caretaker, you do epic shit all the time. Like, how do you do it? How do you keep motivating the team?
I don't know. I think honestly, I've been in that like burnt out phase, which both of you ladies know. And Monique, when you were talking in the first question about the 80-20 rule for your team, and I was thinking like for event profs, that's got to be so hard because, as you said, they're high achievers, and just that's just kind of the nature, is like everything has to be perfect. And I'm learning, and then you made me think when you're talking about your own inspiration, that it's important for us to live and hold ourselves to the 80-20 rule, that it's like cool if 20% is not 100%. We're not always trying to be perfect. We're not trying to be the perfect mom and the perfect, business owner and the perfect client manager all at the same time. That's something I've definitely been learning in the last year or so, and the importance of giving yourself those mental health days, that space to work things out. And that 80-20 rule stuck with me when you said that the first time. And then the second question, I was thinking, see, this is what we have to do, is give ourselves that same breathing room to take risks, to try something new, to fail. And I this is going like off topic a little bit, but I was just last week talking to my therapist, and she's like, you use the word fail so much. She's like, you're so negative. She's like, why don't you just call it a learning opportunity? Why don't you call it like a new thing you've done? I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah. Like, but that's, I think, the event brain a lot is like, we either are like all the way up here, every detail is perfect, or we're failing, and like, I think it's important for everyone who's listening today. A lesson I'm learning myself is to just like give yourself that grace. And that's what gives you the creativity and fuels the energy.
Yeah, definitely. Bruno, what about you?
Just thinking about, I've had this massage gift certificate for like 2 years. Like,
don't run off the program now. Go get it. Thank you.
I just wrote down in my notebook, self-care, underline. My question for you, Monique, is I read and hear a lot about leadership archetypes, one being the servant leader, which I don't even know what that means, but I'm wondering how you would describe your leadership style, because I think that's critical to getting stuff done.
I think I'm an empathetic leader, and this is the reason why. I've been through almost every role you can do when it comes to events. When I first started out, I have been a marketing manager, operations and logistics, a meeting planner, a content programmer, everything you can think of, right? And so I remember when I was first, jumping to those different jobs, because I really just wanted to learn all these things. I was spotted by a recruiter, and they were like, you don't have a lane. It's hard for me to find a job for you because you do all of these things. And they talked about it as if it was a negative. And I was like, no, honey, this is not a negative. This is something that is going to serve me well when I get into those leadership positions that I want to get to. Mm-hmm. And because I know pain points, because I know the struggle, because I know the triumph, because I know all of those things that happen with each of these very core roles to create wonderful experiences, when I started to lead, I led from empathy. I know where you're coming from. I know how hard it is. I know what it is to try to stay into an unbelievable budget, who wants to do all of these Mercedes-Benz things. And I know what that feels like. I understand how it is to talk to a client and keep trying to get this sales sponsorship over the line, and how tough it is if you don't know how to really create that connection with them. I understand, because I've been there and traveled in those shoes. And so I think me understanding when I was younger that if I wanted to stay in this industry, I didn't want to just be pigeonholed into just one silo. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but for me, I wanted to understand what it took for all of this stuff. So then when I reached the goals of being a leader, I knew how to motivate that particular team member in a way in their position, because I've been there and I've done that. And just to jump off, I'm from TED, so I always got to give you a TED Talk type situation. So one of my favorite TED Talks that just blew my mind is Teach Girls Bravery, Not Perfection by Reshma Saujani. When I saw that talk, it really resonated with me as a woman growing up as a girl, and understanding how perfectionism really kind of pauses you or makes you fearful of a lot of things. And that talk, even though I was kind of over that hill about perfectionism, it is a big primary part of what we do in events. And it was a big primary part of me just continuing to absorb that information, that it's about bravery and not perfectionism. And what we do is brave because either we're saving a company money or we're making a company money. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, that it totally is.
So it makes me also think of sort of the other side of empathetic leadership. And that is when you have a team member that makes a really egregious mistake, as I have done over decades, and it scars you in a way. And I'm wondering how you bring your team members back from a mistake that they've made, bring them back from the brink, bring them back from feeling so horrible or imperfect. And how do you forgive them in a business way to help them continue to be, prolific and fruitful and creative and all of those things you want from a team member?
I have been through that particular experience where it was a really big deal and a big mistake that one of my team members made, and she completely broke down. She was in tears. She was extremely upset. And I took her to the corner. I was like, you can have your moment. You can cry. We can come back from this. You didn't kill anybody. So take your moment, take your space. Let's come back. Let's figure it out. I'm going to be working on here how to start figuring this out. You come join me after you have your space. But my thing is, it's done. Let's just figure out what we need to do to move through this more than anything. And that she still remembers that this was a good 7 years ago. And I still talk to her to this day. And she still brings that up, how that calmed her and made her understand that it wasn't that she can't make mistakes. It was that she can't be frozen in them and paused in it or anything like that. Because when we figured it out, it actually worked out fine. And she saw the end result of us taking that moment to work it out and figure it out. And now she has that as a memory, as in, oh, I can have my moment, but then I have to figure out how to get through it and not be stuck in it. And I think that's the thing, as in, we are human beings and we are going to make mistakes, and we can't, and this is life, and we can't get stuck in it. We have to feel the feelings, because if we try to fight the feelings, that's worse and it's going to linger longer. So feel the feelings. If you feel like crying, go cry. If you feel like you need a break, go take your break. But we got to come back and we got to figure it out. And that's all we need to start thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have like a pretty big team that you manage. I think you said it's over 35 people, which is crazy. And I feel like times are changing. Everyone is talking about wanting their work in a very good way to align more with the things that they're passionate about and their skills. And people are really, we've been through remote work, and that's changed people's personality or their personal feelings on whether or not this is something they believe in. And I just feel like the workplace in general is changing a lot. And I'm not sitting in one of those, but we see it. You see how things are changing. And so I'm curious how you're managing that on top of just getting the work done. I would imagine that your team suddenly has all these new expectations, either for the kind of work that they want to be doing or how they want to do it. How do you manage all of that and still keep the eye on like what you're trying to do, and also support them without, I'm sure you can't just like completely change the entire structure of how your team works tomorrow. So how do you do all that?
I did change the structure of how my team works, but it wasn't tomorrow when I joined. I truly believe that for things that you care about, you make a priority. And so I still believe in FaceTime. I have most of my team sits in Vancouver. Even when I was at Money 2020, a good portion of my team sat in the UK, in London. So I'm used to managing global teams. And so between Vancouver and New York. And it's so important. It was so important that when I joined, let's say TED, that even though you start learning, you start seeing kind of where you can contribute and evolve and improve, I didn't do that until 6 months, because my goal was I need to build trust. These team members are hard workers, but a lot of them been there 11 years, 10 years, a long time. And you can't just come in and try to break up the party or think you're going to change things. And people are going to be very excited about that if they don't know you as a leader, as a person. So I actually do, with those team members, I do one-to-ones, even though I have leadership within my department. So I have directors that report into me who manage their teams, but I still talk to their team members one-to-one a few times a year, for the simple fact that I need to understand my team and I have various different personalities. And if you're in production and something happens and I really need you to step up to do a little bit more than what you've done, I need to understand how to motivate you as Bob, Steve, or whatever, and not just because you're in production. And I need to understand how to motivate my person who's experienced on my experienced team, not because you're an experienced team, but I need to understand you, Linda, or what have you. So I make sure I build in that one-to-ones. I fly to Vancouver to have time with that team on a quarterly basis, mostly. They fly here, my leaders, to meet with me when we're doing things like going to Atlanta or other places. We make sure we have team dinners and stuff like that. Like that connection has to be there from a one-to-one, and you have to make it a priority. You have to put in time and effort for that.
So I just want to address some of the comments that are coming in. First, Rachel's comment that everyone needs a Monique. That hand, like that's it. That's gonna be like on a mug, or I can have it be like another sign, a light up sign, like the Ringmaster of the Shit Show one behind me. So that's first. Jen Artura says people first. Yes, and I think we all agree on that. And I think we're going to need to share that TED Talk in the comments. Bob O'Connell already is going to share it with his daughter. So thank you for that. So we talked about self-care. We talked about the personal connection, even if you have, you delegate to team leaders and then they have their teams. And I think that's important, because I also think that, Liz, when you were talking about the landscape has changed, the responsibilities have changed, the team dynamics have changed as well. You have, remote teams that actually some leaders have not even seen their teams in person, which I think is a mistake. But that's another session for another shit show. But I also think that there's a need here for defining new types of rules or guidelines in regards to when we say epic shit, we don't need it to be the biggest and the baddest and all of that. Like, we need to set the expectations a little bit more realistically, because ultimately what we don't want to have happen is team members beating themselves up because they didn't deliver. And I think that, you need to communicate that over and over and over again. Event profs are guilty about what I'm going to say right now. I think in general, everybody is overachievers, and I see a couple of them already in our audience. I'm not going to call you out, but you know who you are. But honestly, you need to cut yourself some slack. Someone else's epic shit doesn't necessarily mean it's your epic shit. Like, the whole idea of comparison has to kind of stop. And I think that in itself, if it's said out loud by a leader or a team member to another team member, then it's going to be okay to take steps to doing epic shit or great ideas or like new ideas. And if you need to ugly cry in a corner, you're not going to ugly cry in a corner by yourself. Someone's going to come to you with a bottle of wine and probably white cheddar popcorn. I am stuck on the white cheddar popcorn. It solves everybody's problem. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you. But what I'm trying to say is it's almost to a point where like everybody has to take a hot minute where you are redefining priorities. You're redefining definitions of what does it mean when you say epic shit. The clarity, as well as the I call it the moat. So the boundaries you set for yourself and for your team members, and then have a discussion about it. Jen is like saying yes, and Jesse, hi Jesse, is also saying yes with a double E. So I think we're hitting something here. But what I don't want us to stop doing, because we kick ass on everything that we do, is we need to give ourselves the self hug and the high five, even to ourselves or to other team members. We're doing epic shit every day. And I know it sounds cliche. Oh, you got up in the morning and you brushed your teeth and you are not in your bunny slippers this morning. High five for that. But what I'm saying from an event perspective, us as event profs, everything that you do, take a look at what you are doing right now. And if you want to compare anything, compare it to where you were maybe a couple of months ago or a year ago or an event ago. And then you compare it that way, but not to each other. I think there's new guidelines to be drawn here. That's long-winded, but that's where I'm at.
It's like an epic shit therapy show.
This is therapy for a lot of people.
It is.
It is. But so thank you, Sean. So this is where I go back to everybody listening in, and I challenge you. I take a piece of paper and write down things that you've done that that you think is epic shit. Run it by someone, and I bet you $1 million if you find someone that knows you well and sees you and hears you, they're gonna call you out that your list is this small when it's supposed to be this big. And this goes back to my next question to Monique and to Liz and Bruno. How do you become your own cheerleader? And what are the top tips to do to be your team's cheerleader, their megaphone? I'm going to start with Monique.
Okay. Even before we kind of pivot into that question, one of the things when it comes to risk taking, I had to understand the use of language and how certain words would be triggers for some team members versus other words that mean the same thing. And the risks was a big thing. So I call them big bets. What are the big bets we're going to take this year, which is just another form of risk? It made them more comfortable to say it's a bet. We're going to figure this out. We're going to see how it goes. We know it's a bet. Some bets work out, some bets don't. And it really helped be a motivating tool for them. So to answer your question, how do you kind of keep people motivated? Was that the question?
Be their cheerleader.
Be their cheerleader was no one likes to work in fear or disappointment, or they don't feel like respected. They don't feel like they have a voice or anything like that. I really care about getting the best out of my team, but I also care about getting the best out of my team for themselves. Because when I bring my best self to work, it's for myself. The company gets the benefit of that, but this is for me, of why I want to kind of step up and be a high performer, a leader, or whatever. That matters to me as Monique, the person. You are very blessed to have this opportunity that I'm bringing all of that for me, where you're getting the benefits of that. And for the team, they care about their work. They care about their career progression. They care about their skill set evolving. They care about that for themselves. And so I want to be a cheerleader for them personally, because it's going to help motivate them to want to do better for themselves. And the company is going to get the benefit of them being really at that high performance level. So I'm all about thinking about language. I'm thinking about motivational tools. I'm thinking about space. I make sure everyone has an opportunity to contribute. We do something called at my all hands. If it could be an email, then it's just going to be an email, not having a meeting for no reason. So when we do our all hands, we always have a workshop component to that meeting. Because if I'm just giving you information about what's happening in the business, I can send it in an email. We need to be solving problems and evolving things and coming up with solutions. So we always have a workshop that's attached to it. So someone in customer service, someone who's managing a warehouse, someone who holds a camera for production, they are participating in experiential creativity in that workshop, because it doesn't matter where you sit. Everyone has these phenomenal ideas that they bring to the table. That's me being a cheerleader for them, giving them the opportunity to not just play in one lane, giving them the opportunity to use other sides of themselves that they can't use because they're in a particular lane, giving them the opportunity to share and have contact with me for me to think differently about things. And me giving them the opportunity to help elevate their skill set so they become a better lead themselves outside of just working for the organization. So I think that's my long-winded way of saying how I'm a cheerleader.
No, I think that's awesome. I mean, because then basically everybody has a role in creating epic shit or recreating epic shit. Either or. It's all good. So I do have to say, yeah, I was just gonna say, Kate, thanks, Liz. I love this mentality from a leader. All ships rise when people are supported to be their best selves. Monique, I think you're gonna have a couple of people reach out to you with resumes and wanting to work with you, like maybe 100 or so right after this session is done. Just giving you a warning right now. So like, so
there's no perfectionism here. I got some shit with me too. But just
which I think yeah. So Jen already, I would like to nominate Monique for a promotion. There you go. So hallelujah, congratulations. So epic shit officer. How's that?
Like, there you go. I'll take that.
All right. Yes. Yeah. ESO. We're into like new titles and so forth. Liz, what's your big takeaway from this session today?
Oh, so many. I would say my biggest takeaway, well, I already talked about the 80-20 thing and focusing on giving yourself and your team that kind of grace. And the other one I think is the language, because I think I tend to be super, as you know, super driven. I get my eyes set on something. That's like the only thing I want to talk about. And, I think it's important to think about how your team receives your ideas and the way that you share them and the words that you use and how you can speak to the person who you need to be in on this idea as much as I'm in on this idea. And it's important, not just to share the vision, but to speak in the language of the people who are receiving it and to really care about your team enough all the way to that degree that you use the words that resonate with the people who you're working with. So thanks for sharing that, Monique.
Love it. Bruno, what about you?
What I'm getting from you, Monique, is that this is about, let's go around and say what we love about Monique. This is part of the show, we didn't tell you. No, what I'm thinking about is the idea of intent, what your intent appears to me to be, and the intent of a leader. I think it's important, and my takeaway is that intent be, as a leader, how can I serve my team? How can I make them better people? How can I provide the resources that help them be better humans and be better contributors? And instead of the intent of, okay, it's Monday, what can you do for me? We've got a list of things to do. How are you going to produce and do things for me, prop me up, prop our organization up? It's just a shift in intent. And that makes me think, and I appreciate that about you.
Thank you.
Well, and my biggest takeaway is that, when you lead, I don't want to, you lead across the team. You don't leave it to, who your team leads to lead for you or to know your team members for you. And I totally understand, especially for those that have huge teams like yourself. So you deserve not only one self-care day, you deserve a week. All right. Maybe there's a ratio, like for every 10, there's a day. I don't know, something like that. But, I think for that, that makes a huge difference because you want it to be where it's mind stamping. The example that you used when you took your team member who thought, that they made a huge error and you turned it around for them. So that turned into a moment, and that was a memorable moment, and it was a teaching moment, right? So that should be across. And I think it's not it's not only for the team, it's across across the industry too. So those lessons learned should be almost consumed within other organizations. The whole idea of self-care, I think people put that on the bottom of their priority list. They keep saying, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. It's going to be later. I'll get to it later, etc. And the burnout right now is real. And the burnout and the fear factor that we're in actually is a huge detriment to team dynamics, to also just creating epic shit. You can't do that if your tank is empty. So that's my biggest takeaway. And I think this was an amazing session. So
this was fun.
It was fun. We didn't talk about the fear factor that everybody's living into. So maybe that's the part 2, because I think that's real. But I think people have some great takeaways and lessons learned that, you know, other than the white cheddar popcorn, they need to take care of themselves, and they need to redefine the words that they use. Perfectionism can go out the window. So Liz, that one's for you, babe.
I'm working on it.
All right. I had to call you out on that one. I was like, yeah, no perfectionism here. Monique, thank you so much for being our guest. And I'm hoping that you'll come back and, you know, and cut the shit with us again.
I like this, of course.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for beaming in. We just wanted to share with you some of the topics so you can look forward to it. We are going to be talking about the evolution of the event tech mixologist. Yes, there has to be some booze involved with that one. And then cut the shit on conference calls and meetings. We're going to call out some of these conference calls, the way they're going, and the meetings. Do they really need to be meetings? And March 16th, it's going to be about AI tools to power event profs. No, this is not yet another session about Chat GPT. We're not going to go there. And then March 23rd, how to ace Google Sheets. And I think this is all Liz, but this is going to be a good one. So if anybody wants to be our guests on our upcoming webisodes, or if you have something that you are dying to talk about and cut the shit about, please let us know. You know how to reach us. And thank you so much. And I hope you have an amazing weekend.